Welcome back to the Fantasy Hockey Podcast. It's time to talk about a hot hand, and JT Miller is setting the world alight at the moment in Vancouver. He's 77% owned, left wing, right wing. He is doing quite well for himself, and a lot of people have already grabbed him, but I think the big question mark that we've gotten a lot is this sustainable? Can he actually keep doing this? As you know, if you've listened to the podcast for a long time, Brandon and I have always been a little bit low on JT Miller, and for good reason, honestly. When you go back and look at old seasons of his, low ice time, high shooting percentage, not a lot of power play time, it just wasn't sustainable. There wasn't a lot of things there that you'd say, yeah, he's a good player, but like from a fantasy perspective, there's just not much there. But a lot has changed this season. A lot. I mean, I'll just preface this whole video with saying that he reminds me of a little bit of Elias Lindholm from last year. Yeah. That being said, let's jump into first his deployment and take a look at where he's playing. So he's playing on a line with Elias Pettersson and Brock Besser. That's a fantastic line to be on for them. It's the second best second line, although it's not really a second line, but whatever. You get the point. On the power play, he's also playing top power play with Besser, Horvat, Pettersson, and Hughes. That is an amazing top power play. I mean, I love that power play. It is so good, and the only way you could make it better is by switching Hughes and Edler, probably, but it doesn't even matter which one of the two is on there. It's a great power play regardless, and they're clicking. And so everything is going right for JT Miller from a deployment standpoint. This is exactly what you'd want to see, and something that we questioned a lot going into the season, which was like, is he going to be, again, kind of like Lindholm, right? Yeah, is he going to be top line, though? Is he going to be top power play? Will he actually keep that deployment? So far, it looks like he has earned his right to stay there. So now moving on to the stat portion of him and looking at how he's doing so far. So last year he played 75 games, averaged just about, let's say, 15 minutes a game, rounding up. This year he's averaging 19. Huge jump for him. I mean, massive, massive jump. And that has led to a large point increase in other areas. So, of course, he went from Tampa Bay to Toronto. Tampa Bay to Vancouver. I am sorry to all the people that live in Vancouver. You probably hate me now. He moved to Vancouver, and there was a lot of questions on what would the team be like? Would they actually be good? And let's say he did get top line. Would it even matter? And so far it has. It really, really has. So he put up 51 points last year, or he was on a 51-point pace last year through 75 games. And this year he's on a 97-point pace. I don't expect that to continue. But let's get into real quick why I don't see that happening real quick. So for the first thing here, his shot pace is insane. And largely the reason his shot pace is up is twofold. One is deployment, more time on the power play, more time at even strength, and just a better line in general so he can shoot more. And just from a time perspective, if you're on the ice longer, you can get more of these cumulative stats. And so, for example, with JT Miller, he's getting more shots in general, which leads to higher shot on goal pace. Now, that's a good thing, though, for JT Miller for a few reasons. So one reason that is that he actually has a career shooting percentage of around like 14-ish%. So he's somewhat of a high shooting percentage on his career. And it was higher in Tampa Bay last year. And so because it was higher in Tampa Bay, it's not that crazy to assume he could end in Vancouver between, let's say, 12 and 15, somewhere in there. And that's good for him. So right now he's shooting at almost 20%, which is too high, of course. That's going to come down. You can see his expected goals is around 3.5, and he has 6. So he's not that far off. It's a little bit off, but not terribly off. So I'd expect his goals to come down, like it's saying here, pretty much by 2 at the moment, and then he'd be right in line. But it's nothing really to be that worried about. At the end of the day, though, if you're shooting at a 230 shot pace and you're shooting at 15%, that's a lot of goals. And that's what you're seeing with JT Miller as an upside. And then if we get into his assists here, his secondary assist rate, just the same as last year. His IPP, a little bit higher than last year, but that's good. You'd expect that because he's moving pretty much from a third-line role to a first-line role. And so because he's moving from third-line role to first-line role, I'd expect his IPP to go up just a little bit. Also, he's on the top power play, so more points to get in on. And he's factoring into them a lot more than he used to, which is good. And not by a ton, right? 20% difference at the moment if you round up. On-ice shooting percentage is high, but he's playing with Besser and Pettersson, so I'd expect it to be high, not 13% high. I think if that came down to, let's say, 11 to 12, I'd feel much, much more comfortable. But 13 is nothing that I'd say, oh, he's not for real, ignore him, right? No, that's legit. And then if we look at his power play time on ice, this is what's insane. Almost entirely doubled so far on Vancouver. That is huge for him. He's always been, I guess, somewhat labeled a power play specialist in a way. And because of that, I think that's one of the large reasons they said they wanted him in Vancouver was for the power play. And he's crushed it. He's absolutely killed it. He's shooting a ton on the power play too, which last year he only had 22 shots on goal on the power play. And this year he has 10 already. That's crazy. He's averaging just about 1 shot a game on the power play, which is fantastic. He didn't even get close to that last year, so that's huge for him. And if he's already a good shooter in total, right? If he already shoots really well, you're putting him on the power play with more shots where you're going to get better opportunities for shots on goal, and you can hopefully have a better shooting percentage on the power play. That's more goals right there for JT Miller. And then on the on the assists portion, he's not getting as many assists on the power play, but that's fine for now. He has 2 power play goals, 1 power play assist. It's this doubled time on ice that's just insane to me. That is awesome for him. His shots and his hits pace is about the same. His blocks pace is a little bit up, but nothing really that matters. It's about a block every other game. But man, does JT Miller look good right now. Like, he looks really good. 100% reminds me of Elias Lindholm. Elias Lindholm, before he went to the top line in Calgary, was he was about a 40-point guy, and then went to get last year, obviously got top line. He got 78 points. We'll get into what I see JT Miller in a second from a points projection, but man, all these numbers look just fantastic. And if we go to his actual kind of threat levels, how good is he on the ice, or how good is the team with him on the ice? They're better on offense. So if we look at 5-on-5 with, look at all that red, that's good, plus 6%, and the red is in dangerous areas. Without him, they are not as good. Now, this is what's crazy to me, is look at the defense while he's on the ice. Minus 42%. So the threat levels when he's on the ice against them are minus 42% compared to league average, and plus 12% compared to league average when he's not on the ice. They are significantly better on defense while JT Miller is on the ice, and that's just pretty much a fact. To me, these graphs, these little charts or maps or whatever you want to call them, prove to me that he's not going to lose that top line spot anytime soon. He's not going to lose that top power play anytime soon. They are far more dangerous with him on the ice than him without it. So it only makes sense to keep giving him deployment. And when you look at his competition for who is out there still, when you compare the competition of who could possibly take that top spot from JT Miller, Michael Furlan, he hasn't been that good, and he hasn't really proved himself. He's not even getting time with Horvat. And so I don't see any competition at the moment for JT Miller. That line is clicking like crazy. He makes them better on the ice. That is a fact. I don't see this changing. I could see a 70 to 80 point season out of JT Miller, truthfully. And a lot of that just comes down to straight, he was a 50-point player last year on pace. And now you give him 2 more minutes of whole ice time and way more time on the power play. And yeah, I could see 20 more points out of him, 100%. And his quality of line mates hasn't gotten that much worse. Or what I should say is last year he got time with like Stamkos and Kucherov. And so that was great for him. And that's where a lot of the points came from. And now he's with Besser and Pettersson full time, and that's fantastic for him. So yeah, 70 to 80 points for JT Miller. I'd say he's the real deal. Don't sell high on him. You'd be selling, I think, inappropriately. I think right now you hold and you expect 70, 80 points. He's on a 90-point pace at the moment. I wouldn't expect that. I would expect 70 to 80. And yeah, JT Miller is the real deal to me. Pick him up if you can still. He might be available in shallower leagues. The fact that he's left wing, right wing also is fantastic for him, and fantastic if you have positions. He was available in quite a few of our listener leagues this last weekend. So he's just someone to definitely pay attention to. I think even in, let's say, in a 10-teamer, he's really, really valuable at the moment and worth owning. So look, with JT Miller, real deal. Potentially the next coming of Elias Lindholm, and he should definitely be on a roster at this point. Maybe not 100% owned, but he's definitely the real deal. I wouldn't be trading him. So that's your Hot Hands video for today. JT Miller, let me know who else you'd like to see featured on Hot Hands. Also, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for future videos. We'll be back with Unsustainable tomorrow and potentially a bust watch. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.